All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chat from the Deep, our weekly live stream post-session discussion. We talk about what happened during D&D. This is the chat for Session 7, so if you've not watched that session yet, please go do that, because there will be spoilers. I'm your DM, Eric, and joining me we have Gottwald's player Chris.
Hello.
And Mac and Cheese's player Raymond.
Hello.
So this encounter is one of the module / adventures from Ghosts of Saltmarsh. It is originally called Salvage Operation. It is a 4th level adventure, and you get the mission to go to this ship and recover a MacGuffin from the bottom of the ship. And bring it back. It's just like it's not anything valuable to the players. It's like a bunch of like land deeds or something. But the guy hiring you is going to give you a lot of money to do this. Yeah. So that's why it's called Salvage Operation. This old ship that, and I basically gutted the entire inside of the ship because the denizens and the story behind it was just too convoluted to use for my purposes. It was full of giant spiders and like an evil druid, and the story is like this ship originally like crash landed on an island full of evil Lolth worshippers, and they killed all the people on the ship, but then something happened to the worshippers where like half of them left on the ship with all their spiders and shit, but then the ship got attacked by I think the giant octopus, but the giant octopus didn't finish the job, and that's the time the players arrive. And the players arrive and have to deal with all the monsters on the ship, and then when they get to the end and find the lockbox thing, then the giant octopus comes back and tries to finish off the ship.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, it sounds like narratively, like they're trying to do a one-shot. Like let's shove the whole story into one thing.
Yeah, which that's what it is.
I can see why when you approach it, it's like, okay, how do I... It's no longer one narrative shoved into, one dungeon.
Yeah.
So you're trying to convert that into something that fits into your larger narrative, I assume?
Yeah, so what I looked at it and said, okay, I like the idea of obviously a derelict ship. That's pretty classic. And it's a dungeon crawl, which is cool, on a ship. And I love the climactic ending is like, oh shit, we gotta race. It's a very video gamey. It's like, oh shit, we gotta like race back through the dungeon while it's like collapsing around us. Yeah. I thought all that was pretty cool. But yeah, I couldn't wrap my head around using the actual like monsters and storyline from the ship, because I didn't mind using it as almost like a side questy thing. But the more I worked out how to do it, the better it could kind of fit into a very specific point of this story. And the biggest problem I had going into it was like, how do I introduce this quest though to the players? And I think it was somebody in the chat during a crafting stream that was like, just have it be like an encounter. Like they just see it while traveling, and I'm like, that's gonna fucking work. So it essentially starts off as just a random encounter, but it's actually a full-blown module.
But that I will say that did rely entirely on, I think it was my just sense of duty to like go on that ship, because we could have just said like, nah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it could have easily just said like, okay.
It's one of those dangling moments. It's pretty funny. That's, I think, kind of that unwritten covenant you make with DMs and players, where the DM's like, hey, I'm dangling a thing. Do you want to do the thing?
Do you want to do the thing?
And the players are kind of have to like, yeah, I guess we'll do the thing. But I do want to have an in-universe reason for like, why would my characters want to do the thing? And that's why I tried to say like, well, you just see a ship in distress, so you would know that you should try to go save it. And then that's when I realized, like, oh, I should probably put survivors on this ship so they actually do feel like...
Yes, because otherwise it would have been like a bit of a... Yeah, like why did we go down there at the end of it?
Initially, I can actually talk a lot about my plans. Initially, I was going to have 3 encounters from your journey to Gunderlin, which was the Captain Callus encounter first, then Salvage Operation, and then do a Sawagan attack, because a Sawagan attack and the Captain Callus thing are written as scripted encounters in Call from the Deep. But then as I was looking at Salvage Operation, realizing I didn't actually want to use the weird backstory and all the creatures and stuff, then I was like, why don't I just combine the Sawagan attack with the fucking salvage operation module? I gut everything inside and just move that encounter, which was going to be a random encounter on your ship, to just have that be the new enemies on this ship. And then suddenly things just clicked and fell into place and worked so much better. It's like, okay, here's the storyline I've got. I had to write a note to put it in there. And then obviously you've got survivors you can talk to, which will help give you some more context. But it really fell into place way better, and then worked for my narrative too. With the, you've gotten all the threats from the Sawagan and stuff, and now you've got this even bigger threat. It's like, wait, how is this all like connected? And now you've got this giant fucking octopus tearing things down, which I'm glad you picked up on that. Where you're like, this is some weird shit going on now.
Yeah.
So it's technically salvage operation. That's what I'm calling the call from the deep : salvage operation, because it's from Ghost of Saltmarsh, but when people see us run this, they're going to be like, well, wait a minute. You're not running
line up at all.
Yeah, so the beginning and the end kind of line up, because, like I said, the octopus thing is straight up from that module, which is great. That I happen to be able to tie it perfectly into what's going on in this campaign.
Yeah.
But the entire inside of the ship is crawling with monsters, all giant spiders, ettercaps, phase spiders. It's a whole spider-themed dungeon, and it even has a boss is like this evil druid. There's like cool handouts that I couldn't show because none of it's relevant.
Yeah.
And I changed all that and really lowered the number of enemies because it was insane.
Okay. Just a big slog.
Yeah.
A lot of fighting. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically just had that one fight. It was kind of two fights. You turned into one fight on the lower deck, which we did 2 weeks ago. And then this final, which I did kind of create a bit of a mini boss fight there with the Sawagan Priestess.
Oh, yeah. That ended up being a pretty dynamic fight there.
Yeah, and I realized putting the spellcaster way in the back and having it be a pain in the ass to even get to them, I was like, okay, I'm actually going to be able to use my spellcaster for a couple turns.
Yeah. And having that spellcaster have some like decent, like long-lasting spells.
Oh, she had such a great stat block.
Yeah,
my goodness.
It's a good spell list. It's spiritual weapon and hold person and guiding bolt. Is that what it was?
It's just a dream come true from spells. She also had the mass healing word that I didn't use because that's kind of a pain in the ass.
Right.
I could have thrown down a bless on my own dudes. Like
yeah.
Yeah, she had some great stuff. And she didn't even technically do anything on her first turn. Remember, she just summoned the Trident, so didn't cast any of their spells.
Yeah.
Did you scale it any when you found out Reese wasn't here?
I did. So full disclosure, I only knew about Reese's not being able to make it just a few hours before we started, so I had to kind of make some quick adjustments on the fly. Originally, there was one more Sawagan, and I was going to introduce sharks in the water. because Sawagan have the ability to basically, well, I guess you don't know that, but they have a shark affinity thing they can do, and that was my whole thing with the deep waters. There are going to be sharks in there.
Okay.
Now, they were always going to be on the GM layer, so the sharks were going to be my kind of back pocket thing where it's like, all right, if the players are really kicking ass, we're going to put the sharks in there. If they're really struggling, then maybe the sharks really don't show up. But I did eliminate one of the Sawagan right off the bat and then said, okay, I'm not going to use the sharks at all.
Okay.
And it got a little dicey at times. Certainly, it got a little rough. I really wanted to use the Sawagan Priestess to her full ability. That being said, she has a fuck ton of spell slots, so I probably could have done the cheesy thing of like, well, she just cast Hold Person again or something. But A, that's not very enjoyable, and B, if you haven't picked up on it, obviously the Sawagan also just attacked this ship, and now they've got some captives and stuff. So I was like, well, maybe she's burned through some spell slots. Like maybe she doesn't have all of her capabilities. She's not technically at full force. So between you and me, I don't track spell slots because they don't usually last long enough. But I try to just kind of gauge the flow of the battle basically and say, all right, she can use spiritual weapon once, hold person once, and then I think it was a bunch of guiding bolts after that.
Yeah,
which still made her pretty damn
powerful. They were all effective. They all worked.
Yep. And the idea was whenever you take down the priestess, that is what triggers the tentacles. In this case, she was just really low on hit. She had 7 hit points left. I think you guys had taken down everybody else. And I was using kind of like this morality system where it's like, all right. And this fight was just going a long time. But I was like, all right, some of these guys are just really low on hit points. And they're not like, I don't know. I could have played around with that. Be like, all right, well, they're feverishly devoted or whatever, but also if push comes to shove, they become like animals, and sometimes animals just try to get the fuck out of there if they can. So that's kind of how I played it, by giving them kind of a wisdom save, which is something I used to do. I back in like Last Man I Found Over or something, but I hadn't played with that too much since then. Is giving creatures like their own kind of fight or flight determination system.
I feel like it works better with like humanoid or beast enemy, like bestial
Yeah, for
enemy,
sure.
where you can sort of argue that like no,
like, undead aren't going to do that.
They literally
Constructs.
see that like they're losing and that they're about to die and they freak the fuck out and they get out of there. Yep. You know, like that's yeah.
Exactly. So I could have dragged the priestess on another round, I guess. She was technically low on hit points.
And
I could
maybe she would have done another.
Maybe, but I was just looking at the time at that point. I was like, all right, I think it's like midnight. I need to trigger the tentacle thing because I knew that was a whole. If she was the final boss battle and we were going to end things, I would have dragged it out longer. But I knew we had this whole other actual climax to get to.
Yeah.
So that's when I had her trigger her like death throes cutscene, basically.
Yeah.
Which enters in a kind of a unique situation where we still stay in combat, but there's no enemies on the board, which can be awkward.
So, okay. I had a flashback when you did this because I did a very similar thing in Storm King's Thunder, but you guys were like level 10 when I did it. And there was you had a fucking storm giant that you had just freed who teleported you out of there. But now I like nerded out a little bit. I was like, wait, is this the same? And because I think you've name dropped the same character that was in Storm King's Thunder that you guys didn't technically beat because it's a fucking, elder god sea creature. I don't know if it's the same thing or not, but it's exciting from like my nerd brain to think like, oh, is this the return of this? What was this? The Slurkrithel.
Yeah,
was the name. Yeah, I know it's like a D&D character.
Yeah,
like it's a thing. But I enjoy that when the books do that, and I've seen that a few times where it's like, oh yeah, there's like an enemy that like actually crosses different books, like different campaigns.
Yeah, especially, I mean, it's kind of like having supervillains, basically. That like they can show up in multiple stories.
Yeah,
definitely. And I can't speak too much about all that because that's that stuff is still forthcoming. But I mainly wanted to reveal all the stuff about this module because of I think it did end up working really well for my story, but I did actually have to change kind of the interior and basically, like I said, I combined a Sahuagin attack encounter that I was going to run and then shoved them into this module, and that actually fit pretty well.
It probably worked better because it would have been just separate, but now you were able to sort of make it more streamlined.
Yeah, I think it just fit better overall. And how'd you think? Now, so the awkward thing is, like I said, the original was built for 4th level, but the Sahuagin attack was not part of the original mission. That module, that was all me. So I looked at the Sahuagin attack for the original setup, and the thing that made it harder, was the priestess in the original one? I actually don't remember. 2 Sahuagin.
I genuinely felt like that. This is why I started using all my shit.
Yeah.
I genuinely at some point felt like, okay, this is like a legit boss battle.
Yeah.
Like, it felt like testing. Like okay, we have to use our full strength here.
I would say this probably felt like the hardest battle, but then you guys have actually fought a very hard battle with the big pirate ship battle.
That's true, yeah. But it just felt like just the way it was set up, like a very boss. Like we were joking about in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Like you've got your wizard at the back of a long
the melee guys up here, the
full
wizard
of
back there.
Terrain.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought about that too when and by the way, one change I made, I should have mentioned this, is collapsing the stern part of the ship, because otherwise you guys can easily just hop down that back door, go downstairs, and immediately go to the hold. Yeah. And skip the entire lower deck and basically make your way to the boss fight, which is where I put my boss fight. And same thing with the escape pattern. If you guys can easily just go up those stairs and make it out of the
right.
So I was like, all right, well, if I close that doorway, that solves both those problems and forces you guys to go through the ship lengthwise.
Sure does.
Which matters for hitting a lot of things on the way down and then having to make your way going back up a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think that was very smart. Yeah. Okay, so I do want to ask, because it was such a fucking tightrope at the end. Did you have something in your back pocket for when one of us went down from the tentacles? Because it felt like any of us, one bad saving throw, we could have gone down, and the whole thing could have collapsed. What do you even do at that point?
I don't know. That's D&D, isn't it? Like, what? I can't.
But we've never had a where it's like, if you fail this saving throw, you're literally gonna sink to the bottom of the ocean and never be seen again.
I don't know. What are the stakes? I mean, at some point, it's like, I don't have an answer to that. I literally don't know. Like, I would feel horrible in the moment, but like, no, I had no backup plan. Like,
you had no plan. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I just hope that you now granted, you know, we are only level 3. So I understand your resource limited. You just fought this boss fight. It's meant to be. Now, the one thing I will say is if it feels really unbalanced, I would feel horrible. And sure enough,
it felt good, but it felt good because I feel like at the end, I feel like we were getting lucky. Like, we made the last like 5 saving throws to not get hit by those tentacles. If I had gotten hit by one more, I would have gone down.
Yeah. And that would have changed.
Okay, I guess what would have changed at that point, we would have had to make decisions on who to save.
And none of these characters are technically... I made sure none of them are like campaign critical or anything.
Yeah,
like, that is on the table.
Yeah.
So you guys technically had the best ending.
Yeah, we had the best ending.
Which you managed to save everybody, but that was certainly on the
saved
table.
All 3 of the survivors.
Yeah. Now, what I didn't want to do was make them roll the tentacles, because that just doesn't seem, I don't know, it doesn't seem fair at that point. It feels better if they're like escorting NPCs and the action is focused on you rather than them. That slows the game down. And I think they would just die pretty quickly because of their stats. But I definitely had it tied to you guys where, you have to choose basically who's grabbing who and what's going on. But you guys, you did well making it out of there. I feel like oftentimes I try to create these safety rails because I'm worried, and you guys always exceed my underestimating of your abilities, even at these low levels. But you're right, it is a lot of swing. This one is especially swingy because it's 2d6 bludgeoning damage at the start of your turn, but you get to make a dex save, and if you make it, you take no damage.
Right. Which now, I feel like, I'm not sure, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like if, for example, because I'm using me because I was looking at my health bar the entire time. If, for example, I had gone down in the lower section, I just failed my last dex save and gone down, and someone had to carry me up.
Yeah.
Would you maybe have stopped the tentacles from attacking on the second level or top level as a response? Because I feel like that could, like, you're talking about swingy, that could get real swingy if, like, okay, now Mac is responsible for both Mac and Gottwald's survival because he's carrying Gottwald.
Right.
So if he goes down, now all 3 of them are going to die.
Yeah.
Like, it's yeah.
I think if you go back and watch the stream, and I'm not even 100% sure I did this, but I think I actually did give you guys a few breaks.
Oh, really?
Specifically, when you all made it upstairs the first time, I think I had a round go by when you guys were freeing them and not having to make the saves.
Oh.
And like then I had the tentacles come crashing through afterwards. Whereas the way it's written, it's like once the tentacles start happening, it's every single round, no matter where you are. It's just they're everywhere. Like you can't get. Whereas I really played it like they're coming up from the bottom, kind of round by round.
I actually do remember that. Yeah, because we were talking about like because Heather like bit through one of the ropes and Mac freed one of them, and I guess the tentacles weren't happening at that moment.
So I think I gave you guys a breathing room of a round, and then once you guys were all set up to run, I was like, all right, tentacles are coming bashing through, and it gets dicey.
Yeah,
and that's the thing.
I mean, it worked. It worked great.
Yeah,
it's just in my head, I was going like, this is like narratively, this is working like razor's edge.
It's so hard. Yeah,
but I feel like one bad roll, this whole
it's like a collapse.
Could just collapse.
It could. Yeah, I was worried too. You guys were. So the one thing I was worried about is you had fewer players than I expected going into it. Now, I said I did adjust the combat battle, but I did not adjust the tentacles in terms of the damage. I did make it so in round 1, the tentacles don't come. If you notice, I had you guys like nothing happening. It's just I just mentioned the fact that like something is coming, like the boat is listing.
Oh, right. You even mentioned on Heather's chart. You said like
I had a whole round
coming up from the water.
Right. I had a whole round of like not doing the tentacles, and you guys kind of like make a save to avoid being like knocked to the side, but I kind of teased something happening, and then on the next round, the tentacles started happening, which I think took you guys a full 2 rounds to get out of the hold, which I did figure it would be pretty rough. The tricky thing also
difficult terrain.
When I designed it, I didn't know
who were like tied up. Yeah,
I didn't know what situation you guys would be in following the boss fight either, and you guys were really hurting. 2 of you at least. after that fight, so I was getting nervous.
I had to be revived. So
yeah, you actually went down.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I felt it felt great. It felt like very suspenseful, I guess is the word. Like the tension was high.
Yeah, I was getting nervous with my dice rolls.
Right? Yeah, like I feel like that's almost where you want your players, right? Like they want to feel like, okay, this dice roll fucking matters.
Yeah.
Like if I need to make this roll.
It's a DC 10, which is pretty low.
Yeah,
but if you're having to make it every round, at level 3
on 2d6, which for certain players could be half their life.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a significant roll. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think Sabra only got hit by it once.
Mm-hmm.
I think the rest of you got hit. I don't know how many times. I don't remember the ratio, but
I got real lucky because the first time I got hit, it did 10 damage.
Yeah, that was scary.
If I get hit by another one of those, I'm down.
Almost max damage.
But then the next time it hit me, it only did 4. So it's like, all right, well now I'm still up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is why I kind of flavored that as being like, oh, it's like the tentacles, but also just the general like destruction of the ship is like hitting you with shit.
Yeah.
I was, which I didn't necessarily offer this information, but I did have it in my notes where if somebody wanted to actually use their action to attack the tentacle, which Savra did, but in mine it says in the book if they do 20 damage in a turn, then what does it say in the book? The way I say, I think it says you have. I think it says you avoid making the save altogether, and then I added if you do at least 10 damage, then you have advantage on the save next turn if you wanted to spend your action that way. But what you guys picked up on is like, oh, we just need to dash our way through this, which honestly is probably the better plan because you just get out of there quicker. But that was technically on the table in case people wanted to be like, oh, I'm going to try to attack the tentacles because that's adventurers do that.
Yeah.
So I did feel kind of bad that Heather was like, oh, I'm going to have this actual leveled spell set up. And I was like, oh, it just didn't do quite as much damage. And then I think I narrated it that way. Everybody's like, okay, fuck, we can't attack these things at all. It's doing no damage. So we just got to get out.
That was our cue. Is like, okay, no, that's not going to work.
Which was part of it because, like I said, they have no hit points. There's no, like, you cannot defeat this enemy. You have to get the fuck out. But I did have notes in there where it's like, well, if you do decide to do your action, do like a ton of damage, then maybe that would slow it down a little bit. But technically, it was more efficient for you guys to just haul ass and get out of there.
Yep.
Yeah, you did paint the picture that was filling up fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It was like an escape situation.
I think that was, I literally had like a round by round breakdown of what was going to happen. And I think I just negated because again, with the fewer players and just how much you guys were not necessarily struggling, but just very low on hit points. I was going to have, when I talked about the water level rising lower deck, I was literally going to start imposing like difficult terrain on you guys with the water going up. But I think I just kind of skipped that part. I was like, this is going to be difficult enough. And the original one was funny because you're being dropped off by the whatever ship hires you. You're being dropped off by the like NPCs on the ship, and then you have to like go up there, and they say you have to wait for like 10 rounds for this rowboat to like get close enough to you. And I'm staring at it going, so you're like 10 rounds of making these saves while you're just staring at this rowboat of NPCs trying to pick you up. This is the dumbest. Obviously, that didn't happen in your adventure because you guys took the rowboat yourself. So I just immediately said, all right, well, I forget how we parked the rowboat, but it's there. It's
there. Yeah.
I kind of knew by the time we got to this point, I wasn't really going to care too much about like rules or intricacies. I figure like, hey, if anybody's still alive, like you're just be able to flop your way onto the rowboat. And at that point, I literally picture like, picture the Spider-Man game we're playing right now. Like towards the end of that combat, all of a sudden cutscene just takes over, and it's just like now you're just watching like your cool action sequences happening. In this case, it's the trying to get off the ship.
Everybody jumping on the boat.
Everybody jumping off the boat.
Yeah. Watching the ship go down with the tentacles around it. Yeah.
So my own plan is basically once you guys kind of reach the main deck, at that point it's kind of just cutscene territory.
Yeah.
But yeah, you saved all 3 survivors.
Are alive. Nobody. Yeah. Nobody went down with the ship. Well, I guess Cheese went down with the ship.
Cheese went down with the ship. Yeah.
Good old Cheese.
What's funny is I had a whole thing set up for Toro because I figured Reese would be like, oh, I'm going to try to commune with the tentacles.
Oh, right.
And obviously that didn't come into fruition, but now that he suddenly mysteriously disappeared, I can still kind of work with that for next time.
Yeah. What was he doing during this time?
Yeah, and that can actually work out pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we basically did this entire module, again, custom created, I guess, because of the inside of it in those 2 sessions. And technically, we only had like 2.5 sessions at 3rd level, but it just kind of works out pacing wise to level you guys up here.
Yeah.
So level 8 will be the 4th level, which is insane if you look at some of my previous pacing.
Yeah. Yep. I didn't really feel that on the 1 to 2, but the 2 to 3, I mean, but the 3 to 4, yeah, I was like, okay, we actually are moving quickly here.
Yeah. Yeah, it just works out. You guys do the next area at 4th level, I think, and I've got I don't have quite all the level milestones in play, but I do have at least up to 6th level, I think, and knowing exactly like where I'm going to level you guys up with. So in this one's just like, this is going to feel quick, especially because you were able to do it in only 2 sessions because the Callus thing wasn't even a fight. So I think everything went even a little quicker than I expected.
Oh, right, that's true. Yeah.
And then, and because I originally had that Swaggin attack as a separate encounter, but then I combined it with this one, so it even got that much quicker. So, but I still kept the pacing the same.
Okay, yeah.
Anything
4,
else?
I don't know what 4 is for everybody else, but it's an ASI for fighters.
I think it's an ASI for everybody, isn't it?
Everybody?
Or a feat.
Okay. Or a feat, yeah.
Or a multi-class.
Or a multi-class. You can always do that. Nice. I like this a lot. I feel like it was very tense. It was very exciting.
It was tense for me because again, it's that Razor's Edge. I'm also staring at y'all's hit points going, holy shit.
Yeah.
This could get dicey. I actually really liked that Ray just went into total like, all right, I'm low on health. I'm just going to go into like turtle mode.
That was interesting.
And just turn into like a battlefield commander.
Yeah.
The Drake it's so easy to ignore as a summon until you realize, oh, this shit's got some like legit stats as a combatant.
He's got some hit points. He's got a decent attack. Yeah.
AC. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that saved me. I mean, with the
because that priestess had her eyes on you, right? Yeah. Like she was like focused on you, and then you just like, wait, nope, fuck you.
I really tried to play the Swaggin as more intelligent minded, and trying to take down like, all right, you're the biggest threat. Oh no, you're the biggest threat. No, he's gone. Let's go back to that one.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, a success, but only because the dice allowed it to be a success, I guess.
Yeah. I'm very curious how this. I feel like I want to go through like an alternate universe run of this session where, like, in that last 30 minutes, like 2 of us failed our saves.
Yeah.
Just 2 failed saves. I just want to see how it would have played out.
I guess, depending on where you made it, I could have really bullshitted and said, like, oh, well, the captives, like, turn and drag you and carry you out.
You could have had them
at least had you gotten far enough to where you freed them, and Sabro, did her little intimidation roll, and then if you went down at that point, then... But if you guys had gone down in the hole, that would have been really bad news, because it would have been hard for me to narratively... like Deus Ex Machina you guys out of there. And at some point, like, I don't know, man, there's got to be some big consequences, and...
Yeah.
We shy away from it, but man,
yeah.
And this
they're there. They are still there.
The problem is this is also not one of those situations like, oh well, you're gonna wake up in a jail cell or something like this.
Exactly. I think that's the thing is like in a lot of situations where like, okay, you could go down here as the players. You go like, okay, well if I go down here, then XYZ.
Right. We'll figure out the next step with these characters.
This could happen, and this could happen. But here it's like, okay, if you go down, there's only one option. You're fucking drowning in the ocean.
Your one option is to roll a new character.
And you are never seen.
And we got to fire up Jimmy McClure to get another fucking arc going.
Exactly.
Like, I'm sorry we lost one.
So it's almost like a meta stress. It's like, okay, no, if I go down here, like there's nothing to save me. Like there's no one and nothing will...
That's how I felt too. And especially when those tentacles started coming, I started looking at y'all's health going, okay, this is...
Yeah.
But, I keep underestimating it. Like, you had that action, you kept that action surge throughout that entire boss fight, which is insane.
I was literally, it was that.
Which was clutch.
I did end up using that, right?
You used it to dash and, like, get everybody out, like, get all the which I should have given you inspiration for that. I will give you a posthumous inspiration for that, actually. I should, because you, like, single-handedly helped save all those people.
The other one, though, that I fucking hung on to, well, I guess she was out of range, but I was gonna use it until I went down. I was gonna use my stone rune to fucking enchant her, the priestess, and like lock her down.
Oh yeah.
But she downed me the turn that I was gonna do that.
Oh wow.
She literally took me out with that guiding bolt. So
is each rune a 1 time per short rest thing?
It is
separately.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, you were using all your shit.
Yeah, I used almost everything I had except for that stone rune.
Wow. All right. Anything else about session 7? This was a fun one.
It was
very action packed.
Yes. Just it was basically one big action scene, right? Like all we did was explore the one. Like we got the letter.
You got the letter. You explored the one room, got the letter.
Was the action sequence,
and then it was combat time.
Yeah.
And then I technically kept you guys in combat for the entire escape sequence. Yeah.
The escape, yeah.
Which is fitting that's also a milestone, I think. Is that big,
that's true,
you come out of that ship going down, you guys barely survived. You're like, yeah, I think that's worth a level up.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Next week will be a tougher one to prep because, well, it's going to be fun. All right, I think that will do it for this week's chat from the deep. Thank you to Chris and Raymond for joining me. Thank you to all the fans for watching, and we will see you all next week.
See you next week.